We are back again, and guess what's back again? At least partially back, not
Slim
completely
Shady.
back. My voice, well, Slim Shady too. Well, he's been back. He's been back for a while.
That was my first instinct. That was my first guess.
All right, yeah, we're back a little bit, at least enough. Welcome back inside the game, episode 205. Nate Wangler alongside Ryan Glitzky. Good work on your end yesterday, carrying the show the rest of the way. I know that was obviously a little bit of a unique situation, but a lot of good stuff to talk about and a lot of good stuff to get to today. Obviously, we had the national championship semifinal in college football yesterday. We're going to talk a lot about that. Brad Holmes getting the chance to address the media about what the plan is moving forward with the Lions. We also got some comparisons, at least on the soccer side, as you were talking about. I think really interesting seeing the emergence of one Brendan Aaronson as compared to what some of our other options are in the U.S. men's national team. Mauricio Pochettino talked about he wants the best options available. Well, I think we're starting to see one of your best options emerging right now in Brendan Aaronson. So a ton to get to on the show here today. But how did the remainder of the show go yesterday, Ryan? I know there was a lot to talk on, and I'm looking forward to our Miami Ole Miss conversation because I know we were kind of at difference with that, but I think we were both predicting that it was going to be a close game, and yeah, it was all that and then some. 4 different lead changes, but a lot of good stuff to cover on. But how'd the rest of yesterday go?
It was good. I didn't realize how hard it was to fill an hour of time without anybody else or comments rolling in or anything. So I was just kind of just going with whatever. I thought the Aaronson conversation, I thought I could have done it a little bit longer, but it lasted like 5 to 8 minutes tops. So I was just kind of, seeing what's out there, and then started talking about Brad Holmes, and he did what I wanted him to do. So that was kind of happy. And then obviously I got to the Michigan football part, and I mean I absolutely love talking about Michigan football, so that was great. But no, it was it's a little difficult to fill an hour of time just by yourself. So I did I did loop the commercials a little bit. So I did loop them 2 or 3 times just to put it out there. John says good morning, by the way. Good morning to you too. But no, it was a little difficult, but I had a good time doing it. So
reminds me of all the old radio guys. I've always been amazed by that, and especially obviously coming up in this industry, I know a couple of them, and they're just asking like, how do you fill? Because a lot of those radio shows are like 3 hours long. And I'm like, how like Valenti, like how do you fill all that time? His is 4, yeah, exactly. Now, mind you, you have sponsors, you have other stuff looped in there, so you're not talking for 4 hours straight. It's a little bit different than maybe some of the other setups, especially in radio, with how much advertising means in that industry. I mean, it's everything. You wouldn't have radio if it wasn't for advertising. But it's how does he fill all that time? And I guess once you've done it for so long, it becomes a lot easier. Plus, you have Rico over there just saying whatever the heck Rico says on a daily basis. So I'm sure that really helps you kind of drive the ball forward. But it makes no sense. I'm like, how do you do it? Some people are just good at yapping, man. That's all it is.
Yeah,
some people are just good at yapping.
Yeah, you can also make segments where, I mean, since it was kind of a last second, I didn't really get a chance to do it. But that's why you do like lists, like you just react to lists. So, because that fills in time. You also have callers. But I also want to point this out. I know we're going to this is kind of jumping the gun a little bit in terms of the Miami Ole Miss talk and all that fun stuff. But a couple days ago, they're reacting to top 10 college football national championships of all time. And they're talking about one of the Miami ones because Miami was in so many, in the 80s, in early 2000s, if you just think about it. And one of them, and Rico goes, Miami was just that team that just would get there, but they wouldn't get it done. I'm sitting there, I'm like, dude, they won 5 national championships. They won 3 in the 80s. Like, what are you talking about? Like, you're going to, it's like the Patriots. Like, if you solely look at the fact that they lost the Eagles and you only saw them lose to the Giants twice and they lost the Eagles, you're going to say, oh, well, the Patriots. But sometimes when you're a dynasty and you're that good of a franchise of getting to places, you're going to eventually lose a couple championships because you're there so often. Look at the Warriors. They
Yeah.
lost two, and they went to 6 and they lost 2. So, I mean, most teams, some franchises don't even have a championship. And for some franchises, we haven't even been to the championship. Looking at you, Detroit.
Yeah, well, and it's funny because sometimes I'll watch those clips, and we talked about, especially with revamping our social media and what we were going to make it all look like. I'll watch those clips from that show on 97.1, and sometimes I don't know who cuts up their clips, but I'll just see Rico say something, and then you just look at that Mike Valenti's reaction to it, and that's the best part about it. It's not even what Mike says in response to it; it's just the way that Mike reacts to some of the things that Rico says that just cracks me
The
up. But
the
yeah,
good one the
yeah.
other day was Rico trying to figure out what belt to ass meant, and he's like belt, bat, and Mike's like BTA, belt to ass, and he's like yeah. I'm like, ugh.
Oh, yeah. Interesting group. Interesting group for sure. But final show this week here on Friday. Again, we'll be back on Monday with a new show inside the game. We got the second part of the semifinal coming up this weekend, Oregon and Indiana. Taking a look at what we got coming up. So this one, episode 205, obviously 206 coming up on Monday. But let's talk a little bit of soccer, Ryan Glinsky. I know we had a few things that we were talking about yesterday that we wanted to kind of piggyback off of. But you had a really interesting story when it came to one Cavan Sullivan this morning, looking for a contract. Now, obviously, he's on the younger side, and we had obviously mentioned him on the show Inside the Game. I believe a few months back when he made, I forget how long ago it was.
Yeah, the Panenka, and everyone was
Yeah,
getting on me for hyping up a Panenka, which that was kind of the point, was hyping up something that didn't need to be hyped up really. And
right.
that I spelt Panenka wrong. I didn't even know how to spell. I just was like, that looks right, and threw it up there. So the comments, if you watch it, were either a lot of, dude, he's 16, or it's, you spelt Panenka wrong. And it ended up having a monument, so many views on that one. I think that was over 80K, and I was like,
Yeah.
well, no, it did it. So that's another funny thing is when people on social media, like, so you or I make a video, and like I made a college football video yesterday on my personal about Miami. Like I was yelling Miami is so hyped, not because Miami won, but the fact that the SEC's dead again. Like they're not even in the national championship, and people are like, this was a tough watch. Like they all thought I was a Miami fan too. And every time someone says like something that's like trying to roast me, I'm like, you still commented, you still watched the video, and some of them liked the video, and I'm like, you guys still did what I wanted you to do. So yeah,
What clip did you post about Miami Ole Miss yesterday?
yeah. So on my college football page, I go, it's a Canes thing, it's the Canes thing, but most importantly, the SEC's dead, and everyone's like, SEC's always on your mind. I'm like, again, you guys comment. You guys, like, people don't realize the more you comment, the more you engage with
The
that
more
video.
you feed it.
Yes,
Yes.
it just continues to grow. So like,
Yeah.
I don't know. But yeah, the Cavan Sullivan point. Not a contract. He's looking up for a U.S. men's national team call up. I imagine for the World Cup. Grant, this kid is 16 years old. I believe he should be 16 years old. Remember, this was the kid that signed a contract at 14 years old. Yeah, 16 years old. This, gosh, makes me feel bad. But anyway, this is what he said yesterday. He's looking for a call up. 16-year-old said his goal high this year. He says, quote, I'm just going to say it. I hope for a flying start in MLS, and maybe I get a men's national team call up. A lot of people think that's a far dream. I probably said this last year, but that's what I'm pushing for, end quote. But Sullivan did play in the U17 World Cup this year, where he won man of the match 3 times. Didn't we lose to Morocco in the U17 World Cup?
We did.
Yeah.
We did.
Okay. I was
Yeah.
making sure. I mean, I probably had like a 90% chance of getting that one right because we always lose to Morocco in the youth World Cups. So I had a pretty good chance on that, getting that one right. But
Yeah.
no, let me know what you think. I like it. Again, he's not gonna make it, but I do like his confidence.
The one thing I always envy is the people who are willing to actually write their goals down and then go out and chase those goals. Yeah, I've never really been one to do that myself, mostly because I don't like thinking 3, 4 steps ahead of time. I like addressing what I can now. I like focusing on what I can control right now in this moment, which what I can control right now in this moment is just putting on a good show, right? And then moving on to the next thing. I'm not really one to write down my goals because I don't know what my year is going to look like, right? And I think setting up those expectations is kind of in some ways setting yourself up for failure because you really don't know, right? And if you don't hit those expectations, it's kind of like preset disappointments for a lot of people. But I do envy it because in a lot of ways, the only way to really achieve a goal is to write it down and to actually visualize it, right? Like you actually have to picture yourself achieving that goal in order to get to that goal a lot of times. And so for Sullivan to, say something like that and want a national team call up and make a big splash in Major League Soccer, I think those are all really good goals. And I respect the kid for putting it out there. I respect the kid for wanting to do that. Now, for the World Cup, I think he's in over his skis. That's not going to happen. And I think he knows it, and I think Mauricio Pochettino knows it. Not to say that any disrespect towards his game or really that upcoming group of American soccer players, but they're again in terms of the options that are in front of him right now, there are a lot. And you had brought up, when we were going through that Club World Cup, you had talked about, if you um, if you were good enough to be on the national team in that age group, you would be on the national team. Like you wouldn't be playing for the U's, you would be playing for the senior team. And so I don't think it's any disrespect to him. I think he had a great showing, winning man of the match 3 times. Wasn't he in the runner for the Golden Boot in the tournament? I thought he was.
That was what was his
That was
name?
a different.
I think that was
Oh boy.
Kramashi, Benjamin Kramashi. I
Yes.
think. I
Yep.
think.
Yep. But anyways, either way, I love the confidence and I think that's when we talk about that younger group of American players that are coming up, the 18 to 20s, that is the thing that I think that is really appealing about that group, really is the swagger. They just kind of carry themselves. They're not meek, they're not shy, they're expressive, they're individually creative on the ball. I mean, we saw that with Sullivan with his PK, the Panenka, if you will, which I thought was, to your point, maybe not the most amazing thing in the world, but I think they're a flashy group, and I think they have been a flashy group. And I always go back to when they interviewed Cavan Sullivan after, I believe it was before the Morocco game, and thank goodness it was before the Morocco game. But they talked about how this iteration of American soccer players is just they're not scared. They're not scared. They're not shy. They're going to go out. They're going to dance in your face if they end up doing something. And so I love all that. Do I think he's going to be on the senior team eventually? Yes, absolutely. I think he's going to play a role eventually. I just don't think right now is the window for him, and that's okay to say. But yeah, Morocco's a nightmare, man. I don't want to play Morocco anymore, anywhere. I mean, that's 3 straight wins, knocked us out of the Olympics, knocked us out of what was it?
A
Oh man,
handful of
um,
youth World Cups.
yeah. I believe it was U17 and then U20. I think the
Yeah.
last 2 times that they've knocked us out. So that's a country that's they figured out how to beat us. So one way or another, they know how to beat American soccer. So so grateful that we didn't have to face them in the World Cup, but. No, I like the confidence, and again, I like goal setting, and I think that it's realistic to think that he's going to make an impact in Major League Soccer. He's going to be on the men's national team at some point, but kind of like Neil Kennedy. Although I think he has a much better chance than Neil Kennedy. I think I would trust putting Sullivan out there over Kennedy. I
We
don't think he's going to make the 26 World Cup. Have we gotten an update on Neil Kennedy yet?
uh
Is he making the team?
he was at an award show recently, so I don't
Oh,
think
okay.
so. Uh oh my god, that's hilarious. So if maybe it's just cuz I'm in studio here and I search it up, but I just searched up Neil Kennedy and the first thing that pops up is a video of you and JT on YouTube about
Really?
this. Yeah. Um
Can we share it with the friends on the screen? Do we have any way of doing that?
of
Because
what?
now I'm interested in what we got.
It's just like, will he be on the U.S. World Cup? I don't remember. It doesn't
Oh,
have a ton of views,
all right.
but maybe it's just because I'm on the computer. But no, it's no, I don't know what he's doing. I truly don't. But I would Neil can I think Cavan Sullivan's got a better chance of making the U.S. roster in the World Cup instead of, yeah. I even searched up Neil Kennedy on
I don't know, man.
news and there's nothing. So
Did you see some of those open field shots Neil Kennedy was taking? It's like a guy shooting in an open gym making a three. I always have to wonder how many takes it sometimes it requires in order to get the perfect shot. Like he's got to be out there for hours sometimes, man. Which I like I said, I gotta respect the hustle. I also respect the weight loss journey. Like that's not easy.
that's probably
Like
that's
coming,
all it is.
yeah. I mean, coming from someone who's I mean, the weight has been like a freaking roller coaster his whole life. I can tell you that it ain't easy. It ain't easy working it off. It ain't easy keeping it off. It's a struggle. And so to that degree, good for Neil Kennedy. Does he stand a chance of getting into the World Cup? No, probably not. But speaking of U.S. men's national team, we had a good conversation yesterday, and I heard you talk about this a little bit after I was gone from the show. But part of Mauricio Pochettino figuring out who his group is, um, things have gotten shaken up a little bit since Brendan Aaronson has started playing a lot better. And you obviously shared your opinion on that yesterday, but of course we can talk about that a little bit more today in comparison to our wingers. The what you brought up yesterday, him versus Diego Luna. Um, and I don't know if you still have that graphic to put up on the screen. I know you made one
Uh,
yesterday.
I'd
We
say
can see if we can
probably
put that
not.
one up. If not, no big deal. Um, Here's what I'll have to say about it. When Diego Luna burst onto the scene during the Gold Cup, we needed him more than I think he knew. And I think that was something that Diego Luna really filled a void for U.S. men's national team fans. And I remember in hindsight, I mean, I would have like straight up arguments with JT on this podcast about that specifically, about Diego Luna. And not because I thought U.S. soccer had arrived, not because I thought that winning the Gold Cup was something that really made a difference at the end of the day. Because listen, it's set up for the U.S. to succeed. Like the Gold Cup is set up for the U.S. to have success and Mexico, right? We should be meeting in the finals every single time we play in that tournament. Now, obviously, Canada had a stretch, and I think that their Canadian soccer is looking a lot better now than what it ever has been. But is that to say that just because you beat Haiti and some other, who knows, to Guatemala to get to the finals, that all of a sudden now U.S. soccer has arrived? No, absolutely not. But what Diego Luna provided for U.S. men's national team fans and just soccer fans for in America in general that want to see this team succeed is that he showed something that we didn't see out of this group when they were bounced out of Copa America, and that was the fight. It was the fight, as the grit. I listened to Landon Donovan's show, and you see, that picture of him when he's like bleeding out of his nose, and he didn't want to come out of the game because he got elbowed in the face. All those things really made you kind of be like, okay, like this needs to be what the identity of this team is moving forward, not just Diego Luna, right? We need everybody to kind of adopt this mentality because if we don't have this, we're cooked going into 2026. We're cooked going into the World Cup if we don't have a team that's willing to fight and claw the way that Luna did. And the truth is that I think what's more appealing about Diego Luna is the story. And now he didn't grow up dirt poor, but when your whole family is living in an apartment in California, you're not necessarily growing up in wealth, right? So like you can say lower middle class, but he certainly did not grow up in a wealthy or favorable situation. Now, did his dad play pro soccer? Yeah, he did, so but I don't think that necessarily launched him into the soccer stratosphere. I mean, this is a kid that had to battle his way to everything. And more importantly, obviously growing up in a family that, Mexican American, he was one of the only ones who actually wanted to see the U.S. men's national team succeed. He wanted to play for the country that he was in. And so everything about Diego Luna, when you think about his story, his fight, his grind, what he had to do to get here, all of those things is what makes him an attractive player. And that's why I personally fell in love with someone like Diego Luna. Like, yeah, the skill set, whatever. I mean, we can argue about MLS and is he as talented as every other player? No. And so that's what makes me think at the end of the day, Mauricio Pochettino might hold on to someone like a Diego Luna despite what Brendan Aaronson is doing. But that's the part of the story that I fell in love with when it came to Diego Luna, because in a moment where a void needed to be filled for the U.S. men's national team, this 22-year-old scrappy Mexican American player named Diego Luna stepped up and filled that void. If not permanently, he filled it for the little bit that we needed. Now, obviously, we lost to Mexico. We knew we still had issues, and now that we've gotten into the international window and we've seen what everybody can do, and we're seeing what these guys are doing on their club teams in Europe, and most importantly, we're witnessing the emergence of Brendan Aaronson in the top league in the world. Now we're going to look back at it and be like, is this the right choice? In comparison to Brendan Aaronson, is this the right choice? And to that degree, if you were to ask me, is Brendan Aaronson a more talented player than Diego Luna? Absolutely. I don't think there's really any debate about that. And that again, that's not to take anything away from Diego Luna, but it's easy to get caught up in the minutia and not realize that one player might have just a better skill set than the other player. But now it's up to Mauricio Pochettino to decide, well, what do you want? Right? And mind you, I don't know Brendan Aaronson. Right? He might be I think you're muted, my man.
Oh, that's right. Sorry, I was drinking my Pepsi here. Yeah, we don't know any of these players.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. So, but trust me, you can tell just by watching and listening to Diego Luna. Like, this is why the media is important. Like, this is why interviewing is important. This is why speaking to the media is important, because it gives people an understanding as to who you are. And we've seen that from Diego Luna. Now, you're right, we don't. But it really comes down to Mauricio Pochettino deciding, what do you want out of this? Diego Luna is someone that's going to bring passion, fire, energy, spark plug, all those things. It's just the way he carries himself. On the other side, Brendan Aaronson, I'm sure, is much in the same way, but you've seen the production, right? You've seen what he's done at the highest level. He's emerging. If you were to compare his first 45 games, and we talked about that already, compare his first 45 to what he's done lately. It's not even close. And so now it's up to Mauricio Pochettino to go, okay, who's the right fit? We know who the more talented player is, and I think it's Brendan Aaronson. But who's the right fit for this team? Because I remember him, and obviously this goes back to his whole infatuation with watching the movie Miracle. And the reason being is because if you remember in that movie, Herb Brooks only needed one practice, one tryout to figure out his team. And he's like, I've coached these guys. I've coached against these guys. I know their families. I know who they are. I know how they click. He goes, this is my group. And I'm going to carry this group into the Olympics, and we're going to go with them. Now, obviously, it didn't just take one game or one practice or one training session for Mauricio Pochettino to go, I know what I have, mostly because he's not from here, right? He needed some time to figure out who was who, and now he's figured out who is who. So my biggest thing is just, what is Mauricio Pochettino looking for? Because I think while Brendan Aaronson and Diego Luna, if we want to argue skill sets, maybe are a little bit different, what they offer you could be very different from a personality perspective, from all those other things. But I think that Brendan Aaronson has certainly earned himself, at the very least, a look and a consideration of being, if not a starter, certainly being someone that has more significant minutes than someone like a Diego Luna. So, that's my personal, yeah.
I think both will be on the roster. Both will be on the World Cup roster. There's no question about that.
Well,
but
right.
I would say if it came down to who's who, I'm taking Aaronson because of one simple thing. He's got this energy every time. Like, these goals that he's scoring in the Premier League, a lot of it is he's pressing high up the field, he's winning the ball back, and it's a scrap for these goals. These aren't pretty goals, but he's creating stuff for himself. Leeds is not a club that's going to dominate possession. They're not that good in terms of the Premier League standards. They're not that great. So what does he do? What is the U.S. going to do in World Cup when they come up against Spain or France or in England? They're going to sit back. And this guy, Brendan Aaronson, is going to press up the field. He's going to win the ball back, and he's going to score some scrappy goals. Luna, I understand it's a really good story. It's all that fun. He's going to be on the roster. Like it's who's going to be left off. But if it were to come down to who gets more playing time in the World Cup, if it comes down to if it just happened to be who am I taking, Aaronson or Luna, it'd be Aaronson both times because Aaronson not only provides more energy, I can't discredit Luna's heart or desire to play well, but I still think Aaronson edges him in it because of how. And also, we got to think Aaronson has been getting heckled by the Leeds United fans for the last 3 years. Like they absolutely despised him for a long time. They probably still do, despite recent form. It's just the last couple of weeks for Aaronson, but he has been getting heckled. He has even told his family to stop going on social media and looking at Leeds fans because this guy's been getting heckled. Sure, the upbringings for both are different, and you gotta, they're different paths. But Aaronson has been getting heckled for years. His family has, his girlfriend has. But if it comes down to the two, I'm taking Aaronson over both because of what he can provide. Look, at both these players would come off the bench regardless. And coming off the bench, I'd rather have Aaronson over Luna. I think Aaronson fits the mold much better to either A, see a game out, or press high up to grab that equalizer or nip a goal and win the whole game in the 90 minutes or in the 120. I think it's Aaronson, no doubt about it.
Well, the only way we can really, look back at that game against Mexico in the Gold Cup. I mean, Diego Luna disappeared. And as much as I hate to say that, he disappeared. And so, in our
that's right, because Luna was the highlight. Everyone was highlighting Luna. Everyone was like, all right, Luna, how are you going to step up? Well, the whole team sucked, but he didn't do a thing. Like the whole U.S. team was horrible. They couldn't connect 3 passes to save their lives. That's why I find it funny that Mexico fans flex that because, well, there's a difference with having your A squad and your C squad. There's a little bit of a difference. But
Mexico is the new Michigan State. If they beat us, that's all that matters.
Pretty much at this point, yeah. At this point, yeah.
At this point, yep.
You're right. Luna disappeared. I don't even remember him being out there. I think he may have gotten subbed off early. But yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
That's why I would like to see.
That's right.
I'd like to see Aaronson I'd like to see both in the March window. Yeah, because that'd be the next one. I think is the March window. I'd like to see both, and I'd like each of them to start a game and just go from there because we know we're getting from Pulisic. He almost scored yesterday again. So yeah, no, I think if it comes down to the two, I would take Brendan Aaronson over Luna in a heartbeat because of the way he presses and the way he is off the ball. Because the U.S. is going to not have the ball majority of these games.
I think it's important to notice that this isn't an MLS Premier League conversation. This is just what we've seen with our eyes. And I think our eyes tell us a lot. And it told me a lot about Diego Luna in that game against Mexico. And my eyes have told me a lot about what we've seen out of Brendan Aaronson the last handful of weeks. It is remarkable to see his emergence in that league. So, no, I definitely think Aaronson should get the lion's share of minutes, but again, we'll see how Poach decides to address that. Very quickly, before we get to our all sports content, wanted to work this in. We will be re-airing a game here on the National Soccer Network. A couple of the players who are in the running to win the Mac Herman award coming up tonight on the National Soccer Network. Donovan Phillip and Richie Amon actually played each other in the USL at Ballard FC and Flint City Bucks. Obviously, we talked about Flint City and all the different professionals and the national championship. Yeah, so a couple of different levels in which they played each other, but just amazing to see what those two have done, and obviously how much Donovan Phillip has emerged. But we're going to have an opportunity re-airing that one 6 p.m. tonight. So, and then obviously that leads into the Mac Herman Trophy Awards. So it's going to be interested to see who emerges with that. And obviously we don't have any favorites here on the National Soccer Network. I just think it's cool to look back and it's cool to see these players play against each other. And not only that, just how much better the USL is getting. They're attracting a lot of top end talent. I think, obviously as they continue to merge, they add the new level, obviously Pro Rel coming up as well. They got a really talented base in which to build off, especially when you have players like Donovan Phillip and some of those other ones. Richie Amon, another good example of that as well. But that'll wrap up our soccer portion of the show here today. Coming up next, we're going to dive into the college football semifinal. Miami, the U, heading back to the national championship after their win yesterday over Ole Miss. Ryan Glinsky and myself are getting a real kick out of burying the SEC this postseason because they buried themselves this postseason. We're also going to talk about a few other things. That's all coming up next right here on Inside the Game. Welcome back, episode 205 of Inside the Game here on the National Soccer Network. Talking a little bit before we went to break about the Mac Hermann Trophy Awards ceremony. That coming up tonight here on the National Soccer Network. I believe it's the first ever time it's being televised. So this is, to compare it to another trophy in college athletics, it's like the Heisman in football. Yes. So it's going to be, we're going to name the top female player and the top male player in the country there for the Mac Hermann Trophy. As you get a look at some of the finalists for that trophy representing all the different schools. So we got Richie Amon out of Washington, 4 goals, 14 assists. A couple of other players. Grand Canyon is becoming the biggest kept secret, I feel like, in American college sports. They are starting to emerge in a lot of different ways, not only in soccer, but in basketball too. And obviously, you got Donovan Phillip down at the very end there with 19 goals and a pair of assists to go with that. And on the other side, for the women's finalists, there you get a look at it. Stanford, Florida State, Notre Dame, all being represented. Izzy Engel, 19 goals this year. Akey with 21 goals for Stanford, leading the country on the women's side. So really cool to see. And again, a lot of good stuff to talk about there. And really kind of a toss-up, Ryan. And it kind of reminds you of the Heisman a little bit because you kind of go into it and you're like, oh, we can compare and contrast stats, but a lot of times it comes down to impact. What kind of impact did you make on your team? What kind of impact did you make here? So it's going to be interesting to see who emerges with those trophies.
Yeah, if you look at some of these, there's a young player in each one, junior Juve for Grand Canyon on the men's side, and you look at Izzy Engel, who's a sophomore from Notre Dame on the women's side. So that'll be really impressive to see. And then you have also Mech Jack's back in the chat, by the way. He said, "Hey, what's up? Good to see you again, Mech Jack. Good to see you back in the chat." But yeah, no.
What's up, buddy? Welcome back. He hasn't been in the chat for a while, I feel like.
Yeah, but we haven't talked in a while either. So there's that. Sorry about your goalkeeper St. Clair going to Inter Miami. I'm sure that doesn't sit well with Minnesota United fans. But no, it's cool because there's two both of this they're both really similar in terms of the men's and the women's. The women's side and the men's side each have a national champion and a national finalist. Florida State played Stanford. NC State played Washington, and then they have a young player that didn't make it into the Final Four. Notre Dame and Grand Canyon, Juf and Engel. So I just there's some really cool similarities in both sides. I find that funny, or not funny, but I find that really cool to see. And of course, it being here on the National Soccer Network being aired. I remember when John called me, he was pretty hype about that. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it, and hopefully you guys tune into it as well. And MechJack says, yeah, the whole team I feel like has left. I feel bad for you. Well, luckily, you're not a college football fan of a group of 5 school, because they leave every Central Michigan players leave
Every year.
single year. It's a brand new team
Every year.
single year. So
yeah. Before we get to our all sports stuff, wanted to let you guys know you can find us anywhere on social media at National Soccer Network. Give us a follow. We're live every day, Monday through Friday, 9 to 11 a.m. You're Ryan Glinsky and myself. You can catch all of our social media clips on those platforms. I wanted to circle back, and normally I don't do this, but this is something that I wanted to get your take. We were talking about Cavan Sullivan a little bit earlier and his goals for the new year and wanting to make the national team and make a splash in MLS. You said you had a take on that. I just wanted to give you the floor here for a second. What's your take on it?
yeah, thanks. I feel like it would come back to me at some point, but I would say for Cavan Sullivan. Again, the spotlight's been on him since he was 14 years old, and the youngest player to sign a contract in the MLS, or a professional contract, I think, ever in soccer. I don't think Adu has him beat, but I like the kid's confidence. And you mentioned the Club World Cup. I like the confidence. Is he going to be on the roster? No. But I think I love the confidence, and I like that he's setting the bar really high for him, because he wants to be the best in the world. And if we want Cavan Sullivan to not only be really good and benefit the men's national team, he can't be in the MLS for long. And I think he's setting the bar high. I'm sure at some point his goal before the season is going to be not only to break into the MLS side, the Philadelphia Union, but also to make it overseas. He's got it in his clause. I think when he turns 18, he can then go to Man City. I don't necessarily know if that's the best move for him because of the amount of players and the amount of money that's with that club. I'd rather have him go to a little bit of a smaller club, get more game time. That's ultimately what the goal is getting more game time. But I love the kid's confidence. He's not going to be on the roster, unfortunately, barring some crazy injury crisis. But no, I really like Cavan Sullivan. I like his attitude, and he's got the makeup of being a really good player. But yeah, there's my soapbox.
I'm knocking on wood over here just to make sure that doesn't come true, because I know we've already talked about there we go. We've already talked about some of the injury issues as it pertains to the U.S. men's national team. So, yes, none of that, please. No more Tyler Adams, no more Chris Richards, no more Christian Pulisic. All right, we're good. We don't need those guys getting hurt shy of the World Cup. But, yeah, man, I mean, when you become the youngest player to ever sign a professional contract, that right there, it was probably unlikely. I mean, he had to be the first, right? So if you're going to be confident about anything, I would be confident definitely moving forward, but we'll see how that plays out. Now, transitioning into all sports here, college football semifinal last night, Miami and Ole Miss. Man, you talk about a fight, a barn burner. It was everything that you wanted it to be. This playoffs continues to be amazing. 4 lead changes in the fourth quarter at State Farm Stadium. The Hurricanes to play, obviously, will either Oregon or Indiana in the national championship. Carson Beck scrambled for a game-winning touchdown, 3 yards, 18 seconds remaining. And here's the thing, right? And I said this yesterday. He hadn't passed for over 200 yards in a playoff game, 268 and 3 tutties. All right, so Carson Beck figured it out yesterday, and he was airing the ball out. Of course, Trinidad Chambliss he played his part too, 277 yards passing yesterday. But I'll leave the floor to you, Ryan, to start this off, because I know that you probably watched the whole game. I was a little preoccupied. I had a broadcast last night, so I was doing my best to keep up with it while I was doing that. But I'll give you the floor. What did you see out of that game?
It's a Canes thing. You wouldn't understand. No, I thought it was great. I also found it interesting about the honorary captains, and having Ray Lewis and Edgerrin James, and then Eli Manning late to being on the field for the halftime, or for the coin toss. And I thought it was so funny when they flipped the coin, and Ole Miss like, we want the ball, and Ray Lewis goes, they want that, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is getting cringy. But you know what? That's also the mentality that Ray Lewis has always had. So I can't really complain that it's always he's going to beat you no matter which way. And if he's going to somehow help the team that he wants to win by being at the coin toss and just saying that, I mean, I guess I can't really hate it. It's Ray Lewis up at that point. But looking at that game, if
he gets away with a lot, by the way.
What?
He gets away with a lot, by the way. But continue.
Yes, he gets away with a lot. You are 100%
on the
right.
field and off the field. But anyways, continue.
Yes, you're right. But looking at that game, I was just kind of waiting for the Carson Beck moment to just Carson Beck. I was waiting for Cristobal because during that game, Miami had so many opportunities to just run away with this game. Ole Miss for the whole first half couldn't do a thing. And remember, Ole Miss only scored one touch. If you take away the 75-yard touchdown run from Kawan Lacey, that offense scored one touchdown all game. Like, it was Ole Miss. Trinidad should have thrown 4 picks yesterday if Miami could simply just catch the football. But I'll say this. I will say that Mekjek, he's asking if we are why not support Twitch or YouTube. Mekjek, we are actually on YouTube on the National Soccer Network YouTube page. We're also on Roku. We're not on Twitch, I don't think. We're on Roku, Instagram, TikTok, Apple TV, Samsung. We're on all that. So you can find us anywhere. It doesn't just have to be TikTok. But yeah, we've been on YouTube for over a year, I would say. But back to the point being is Miami should have won this game by multiple scores. Ole Miss had no business in the first half being on the field with Miami. They did not pick up a first down in the first quarter. It was Miami. I said the defense was mean. That defense is mean. They were immediately just dominating the line of scrimmage. Nate, I don't know if you get the same joy I do, but I love SEC teams just getting dominated and moved off the line of scrimmage. Anytime Miami wanted to run the football, they could run the football. And do I think if Miami just in thinking of the national championship here, if Miami simply eliminates the stupid, silly mistakes on penalties, they're disciplined, and they actually take advantage of picks, I think we have a really interesting national championship. But the thing is they don't do that. So I could see it being a blowout. But Miami should have blown out Ole Miss 100% because that offense for Ole Miss didn't know what they were doing. They also didn't have Quan Lacey for a part of it. But no, that should have been a blowout. But I'm glad it was a really good game, and that was a fantastic fourth quarter.
Yeah, and obviously a little bit of controversy at the end too with the with the pass interference. You know, different people saw different things on that play, and I think it's interesting when you go to the comment section. You know, people are like, "Well, you don't call it in that spot." You know, it's the end of the game. You don't call it in that spot. Listen, you ref the game the same way in the first 5 seconds. You ref it the same way in the last 5 seconds. Like, I don't, just because you're inside of 30 seconds doesn't mean that the game changes. Doesn't mean that all of a sudden things flip around and things don't matter. And to your point, when you talk about Ole Miss, like, we can point at the referees all we want, but my biggest gripe with sports fans in general is that that's the first thing that you're always going to see after a big loss. Well, the refs had the money line, or the refs favored one team, or the refs. It wasn't the refs, okay? This Ole Miss team was done dirty. They were done dirty by their coaching staff. They were done dirty by LSU. They were done dirty by everybody, all right? Now, I realize they still had a chance to go out and win. I realize that Pete Golding did a great job. This is not an excuse. I'm not trying to make excuses for Ole Miss. They could have played a better football game. I think Miami is elite. I think they've surprised a lot of people with what they. Yeah, they did. That's true.
There was a pick in the red zone by Miami.
Right. So I'm not trying to build in excuses here for Ole Miss, but it is, you really do, now that the smoke is set, that the dust is settled, you have to be willing to look at that and go, you know what? If they had Lane Kiffin, if they had all those guys, if they had the same camaraderie they had through week 12, are we having the same conversation that we're having right now? Is this the same outcome? I think this is the perfect storm for Miami in a lot of ways. But you can't just say it was because of that one refereeing decision that it all just came crumbling down. You don't ref it any different. in the final 30
were
seconds.
there were many opportunities for Ole Miss to win the game. There are many opportunities that they could have won, throughout the game. But they kicked field goals. Like that kicker, I know I'd butcher his name. In the TikTok chat, Fabian, if I butchered your name, my apologies. Says this is awesome, and also hi everyone. Hello to you too, Fabian or Fabian.
So
Also give me your right pronunciation of your name so I don't butcher it next time. But no, they just kicked field goals. It was they scored 2 touchdowns the whole game, and one of them was on a 75-yard touchdown. That you don't win games that way, despite Miami just shooting themselves in the foot time and time again. How many times did they march up the field and Miami threw a pick, or they had a bad penalty that they were forced to then kick? They gave Ole Miss opportunities, and Miami capitalized on it. Second pronunciation, but it is okay. Okay. I'm glad we got that all right. But no, it was. They had opportunities, and I will say this. I thought that there was too much time on the clock left by Ole Miss when Miami got the ball ultimately, and Carson Beck. Look, Carson Beck, 7th-year player. I mean, that's just crazy to say in itself. But I will say this. He was the scapegoat for Georgia last year because they didn't win the national championship. He wasn't even healthy. So, I mean, I don't understand that. And, he made a move. Yeah, he made $4 million to go to Miami, but he went through progressions time and time again, and he made plays. And Miami's got insane athletes: Malachi Toney, Marion, Fletcher, the running back. They really good players all over the field, and he got it done. And it was on a broken play. He gets it done. But I also will say this: can Lane Kiffin stop acting like he cares about this Ole Miss football team? Enough with the tweets.
Yeah.
Enough with. This is the best team in Ole Miss history. It's this and that. Enough with this. You left the team again. You got them to the college football playoff. 11-1, unbelievable stuff. Or 11-2 or 10-2. I don't remember, but unbelievable. But after every single game, can we stop with the tweets of this Ole Miss team is so good? You're just putting on a face to cover yourself up. You gutted the coaching staff. Like Charlie Weiss Jr., the offense coordinator, was probably not there a couple days this week because he was at LSU, not only trying to portal recruit, not only trying to set up a system for LSU. The LSU also needs a quarterback. DeMond Williams, by the way, back to Washington. I wonder why. So you might be getting Sam Levitt. You gutted the roster. You gutted the coaching staff. It was scramble mode the last month here. Stop acting like you care about this Ole Miss football team because you don't. All you care about is being in Baton Rouge right now. That's all you care about. Got to get him down to Baton Rouge. That's all that he cares about right now. So stop caring. You don't actually care about the kids. And I bet you any money, 10 players from this Ole Miss roster, not named Trinidad Chambliss because Trinidad's staying, 10 of these players will then make its way to LSU at some point. At some point before in the next week or so because the transfer portal ends on January 16th. Fabian in the chat says, I've been a Miami fan since '89, but SEC is not a joke. The best teams are there. Not the last couple of years. No, I'll tell you that. They got moved yesterday. And also another thing real quick to mention, the only team to win the SEC to win a bowl game or win a playoff game that was not against an SEC team was Texas beating Michigan, who sucks, and Ole Miss beating Tulane. We really gonna flex that? I don't know. But enough with Lane Kiffin. You're a douchebag, and you gutted your coaching staff before Ole Miss's biggest games in program history. Sorry, my bad.
Yep. No, you're right. You know why he's doing it though, right? Make himself look better.
Yeah, exactly. Enough with
it's not about the kids. It's not about the kids. It's about me. Me. I did this, and so that's why. And it's, am I willing to admit that maybe part of him feels bad? No, I'm not. I'm not even willing to give him the benefit of the doubt. I don't think anybody should be given. Maybe, but even then, no. It's not all right. And I guarantee you, there's not a single person in that Ole Miss locker room that sympathizes or empathizes. You created a distraction, and let's not pretend like this is the first time a team's ever had a distraction and they've won despite that distraction. I mean, heck, 2023, Michigan, like that team had no reason to go on and win a championship. They had no reason whatsoever to go on and win a championship with all the distractions and everything that was going on. So it's not like the first time it's ever happened. But
real quick, Mekchek has found his way to YouTube. So hey, here you go, Oren.
Nice.
Let's go. Let's go. And, another chat from YouTube. I can't pronounce that. He says, hello, I am from Bangladesh. And he says, keep growing, brothers. So shout out to you, Abir. I'm going to go with Abir. Hopefully I said that right. But shout out to you guys. Again, if you want to be involved in the show at all, any of the chats, please. Again, I could have used this yesterday, guys. I could have used this yesterday. But instead, we just have to keep it for when Nate and I are both here. Could have used this yesterday. And by the way, Fabian, you said since 1989. I'm 22 years old. And once I watched the Miami documentaries, I've always wanted Miami to be good at some point and get back to this level. So I'm really glad that if it's not Michigan or Central Michigan, I'm glad that Miami is in a spot here. But continue, man. I'm sorry I'm interrupting. My bad.
No, not at all, man. Not a problem. No, it's just one of those things. He's trying to make it about himself. He's trying to point the arrow at himself. He's trying to talk himself up. And I think the one thing we've learned about this college football season is that there's just a certain level of arrogance to Lane Kiffin. He has become one of the more unlikable coaches in college football. And it makes all the sense in the world why he's coaching at LSU. It makes all the sense in the world because they love their unlikable coaches. I mean, you go from Ed Orgeron, who, by the way, was likable, was fun, but that dude was a man.
Get them Tigers. Or get the Tigers run the football. Joe Burrow, go Tigers.
Give Ed Orgeron a team that isn't filled with future NFL stars, and let's see how he does. Actually, we saw that. That was the end of his career at LSU. That's when he got the buyout, right?
7-5.
And then you go to Brian Kelly is your next choice? Brian Kelly? Really? Mr. like fake a Southern accent? Mr. like dance uncomfortably close to his guy? Is he like spinning around? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I know what you're talking about.
Framley. Yeah, exactly. And then your next choice is to go to Lane Kiffin right before the playoffs and be like, hey, here's more money than you're going to make even if you win a national championship. Come join us.
So you think you think LSU should have like a they should have gone like the non-controversy route, the non-controversial coach route, because the last two are Brian Kelly, and now this one is pretty controversial.
Yeah. No, I mean, I just think it's a place where douchebags strive. I think that's a place where they like to go coach. I mean, LSU is very quickly becoming one of my least favorite football programs in the country, very quickly. And so, no, man, it's all about Lane Kiffin. It's not about the kids. It's not about Ole Miss. But, you know, I listen, I don't have the voice to go on the rant today, and that's why I feel like I'm kind of going at like 75% right now. I'm just trying to get my points out and just kind of let you cook over there. But if I had the opportunity to go on a rant, I mean, it would be the same exact thing it was yesterday. It ain't about the kids. Ain't about the kids. It's about the money. It's about, and if you want to say that the SEC is different and then it just means more, well, yeah, it means more because we see the drama, because we see the money, because we see the backstabbing, because we see all the other things that are going on. By the way, in plain sight, we knew these things were happening before NIL became a thing. We knew these things were happening before transfer portal became a thing. Now it's out in the open, right? So we all get to see it. We all get to see, we get to hear the debates. We get to see the phone calls. We get to see the money that's floating around. It ain't about the kids. And so I feel bad for Ole Miss, but I think the SEC also needs a new playbook going into the new year. I think the SEC has lost their way, and I think a lot of this has to do with the new age of college athletics, with the money in the transfer portal and the power changing hands as consistently as it is.
I got something funny. So, the SEC, I gotta give a quick shout out here right before we go to break here. But I heard someone say this on I think in my family. I forgot who said it, but during the holidays, because we found it so funny. So obviously, if the NIL, the transfer portal has told us one thing, it's the fact that Nick Saban and Kirby Smart, they were paying players. They were paying
Yep.
players during the 2010s. There's nothing that
Yep.
there's nothing that doesn't say that. There's
Yep.
absolutely nothing. And gosh, I just love the SEC just getting humbled in the last couple of years. I'm sorry, I get a massive joy about it. I'm sorry. But the funny thing is once paying players became legal, you see the shift, obviously. And the fact that Nick Saban gets mad every time you mention, Alabama paid players. You don't get mad, but just because Shane Gillis, who's a comedian who's probably never played a down of organized football in his life, said, they played players, that's why they're winning so much. You don't get mad if you weren't actually paying players. But this is the point where my family got funny. If you look at the North and you look at the South, look at the Big Ten, you look at the SEC in terms of money, the NIL money, the SEC's got car dealership money. The North has corporation money. There's a reason why the second wealthiest man in the world, Larry Ellison, bought Bryce Underwood for his girlfriend because she wanted Michigan to be better. Oracle. That's the difference. That is the difference between the two. And ultimately you got to have coaching and everything in place. But that's the big difference. Now, here's the point where it gets really funny. Number 2 is at some point in the next couple years, because you know how like the governors and lawmakers in the South are like big like part of the NCAA, like they're a part of like some of that governing body. I bet you in a couple of years, these SEC lawmakers, these governors are going to start implementing bills to put a cap on how much you spend in NIL for sports, because all of a sudden it's not fair. All of a sudden the North is spending more money than the South. All of a sudden it's unfair for paying players. All of a sudden it's illegal because we're not winning, so we got to put a cap to this. You can only spend X amount of money. You can only pay this much for a player. You can only have this much money donated and funneled in. All of a sudden it's unfair. So I think in the next couple years or so, we're going to start to see the lawmakers start implementing law. I mean, granted, yes, there should be at some point some cap. There should be some regulations and rules, but it's going to come from the South who's going to say, it's unfair. That's where I find it really, really funny.
Yep. No more cheeseburgers for anybody. Not going to happen.
All of a sudden, it's unfair. The moment, wait, we were doing it for years, but now that you guys get to do it and get to spend more, it's unfair. Like,
wow.
Huh?
Yeah. Yep.
Like, the ACC's got more money than the SEC. You really think about it. Miami spent $4 million on their quarterback and Carson Beck. Whether you think that's a smart financial decision's up to you, but they use him. He's out in a national championship.
Yeah.
Also,
it's ridiculous.
Real quick, I had to shout out Fabian again. He was talking to me. He talked a little bit at soccer here. We can honestly get into this debate just on the outside of the break here. He says, I can't scroll. Oh, he goes, I can't scroll right now. But anyway, he was talking about his kid being a soccer player down in Puerto Rico. And he's looking to move his kid into South America so his kid can get better. He's also a martial arts owner of a gym.
Wow.
Brazilian top team Puerto Rico. I just dropped him a follow on Instagram. You should too. He is a Murillo Bustamante black belt. I don't even know what that means, but that's awesome.
Wow.
That's awesome.
Wow.
But yeah, he said he's got a gym with a ton of former UFC and UFC people. So that's awesome. That's really awesome. Hope everything's going well on your things, and hopefully your business has a good 2026. He also says, I just love college football, but what's your opinion on the implementation of NIL? It's leveled the playing field in terms of the SEC dominance, but I will say at some point the bubble's going to have to pop in terms of the money, because Nate, if you and I are billionaires and we own massive amount, millionaires even, and if we the first of 4 champions that ever won a title in a jiu-jitsu championship. That's awesome, by the way, Fabian. I love that for you. But anyway,
hey, congrats, man.
Anyway, there at some point these people, let's say Nate and I are, and yourself are millionaires, and we own companies, and we want to give some money back to the team that we root for, you, Miami, us, Michigan, whatever. You're not really getting an ROI on it at all. Like, you're just throwing money to maybe see your team get to a national championship. And also, there's no guarantee that these players actually stay for more than 1 year. Look at Troy Aikman, who said he's done donating NIL because he donated money, and everyone thinks it's Dante Moore, the player. He said he didn't even get a thank you card from the player, and he left within a year.
Of
So
course not.
I would
Yeah,
say
of course not.
I would say at some point the bubble's going to
Yeah.
burst and the money's going to start going down, but we haven't crossed that road yet. So, but I would say it's leveled the playing field, but it's getting a little out of hand.
So my girlfriend's sister's boyfriend, Alex, is actually he does mixed martial arts. He's actually Muay Thai now, but he did Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for the longest time, and he trains every day. So I'm sure he would love to get connected with you. But that's really cool. That's a really cool background, and we appreciate you guys obviously watching our show and getting engaged. This is what makes it fun, man. When we get comments rolling in, this really gets us going, gets us talking, gets us. I'm cool with talking with Ryan for hours on end. It's not hard to just talk ball, but we appreciate you guys always hopping in and dropping your comments. I'll say this. So I'm born in the state of Michigan. My uncle John Wangler played at the University of Michigan. He was a quarterback under Bo Schembechler. Actually won Bo a Rose Bowl against Washington, of all teams, oddly enough. And obviously his kids played at Michigan. Both John and Jack both played at Michigan, or Jack and Jared, rather. All Jays played at Michigan. Even his daughters played at Michigan. So and my grandma, well, not my grandma, but his mom actually created a chili recipe that she would feed the team for team dinners that became one of the top 25 tailgate foods in the country. This is according to Sports Illustrated.
Okay.
So, the Wangler name is well known at the University of Michigan. Like, it is very well known. And
cousin was a fullback
to that degree,
as well.
What's that?
Your cousin was a fullback as well?
Yeah, Jared. Yep. Yeah. So there's a lot. My name is well known around there, and that's great and all. Like, I don't really like being like, hey, look at me. Like, I didn't have anything to do with that. That was really the East Side Wanglers that had more to do with that than us. But I've been a diehard fan since I've been little. And I lived through the Rich Rod days. I lived through the Brady Hoke days. We all did, right? Like freaking Nick Sheridan and Stephen Threet and all these dudes. Like,
that was just the beginning of my fandom. So I'm glad I kind of missed it.
Yeah, the bad years of Michigan football. We lived through it. And I don't miss it, but what I will say is this. Even as someone with as many Michigan ties as I have, I'm willing to admit it's not fair. It's not fair. The alumni base, the money, the resources, the blue wall, we talk about it all the time in the state of Michigan. That's what it is. And I tried comparing the Sharon Moore situation to different situations like it across college football. Sometimes that's something that could set a program back for years. Years that could set a program back. In the past, it has. And before NIL and transfer portal, it 100% has. I mean, if players start to leave because your coach decides he wants to do the hanky-panky with an intern and then go break into her house, like, that's going to set you back years and years and years. You're going to have to build from the bottom up again. Now, Michigan's right back in the running to go out and potentially win a championship next year if they hit the portal well. And if Kyle Whittingham has a great first year, which they are, and their coaching staff is set.
Yeah,
it essentially, Sharon Moore disappeared, and we moved on the next day. Like, it's essentially irrelevant. It's old news now.
Yeah.
So is that fair? Let's take comparison. Let's take another Big Ten school. If that happened at a Michigan State, would we be talking about the same thing? Does MSU have the same donor base? No. Does MSU have the same access to resources? No. Mel Tucker. I mean, I realize Jonathan Smith didn't pan out, but Jonathan Smith also wasn't the best coaching, probably the best selection at the time. But it's probably all MSU could get. It's probably all MSU could get. They weren't going to get Urban Meyer. I mean, I love Justin Spiro. Great guy. I think he does really good work. You weren't going to get Urban Meyer. And I don't want to go after Justin Spiro. That is not the person I want to go after. But he wasn't the only one who wanted
Urban.
No
comment on the guy.
But the front office obviously botched that. But MSU, any other school, if you don't have the same financial backing in the base that a school like Michigan does, you're not going to bounce back from something like that. You're not. It's going to set your program back years. Let's look at basketball, right? 8-win team.
Just about to say that.
8-win team. We get Dusty May. What happens? They're the best team in the country, hands down. Like it's you that didn't happen 10, 15 years ago. And so do I like it in some ways because it helps out my team? But if I was a really diehard fan of a squad or a program that did not have the access to resources that a place like Michigan does, I would hate it. I would absolutely hate it. And I remember the story, and I'll never forget this. I knew people that were, when they first announced it, that were at a huge conference of all these different SIDs.
Are you talking
college
NIL?
NIL.
Okay.
When they opened that up and
Yeah.
they announced that they were going to allow that in college athletics. I remember there's a former SID at Cornerstone University, which obviously Cornerstone, as it pertains to college football, it's an NAIA program, irrelevant. But he said that he was situated in between. On his right was Central Michigan, representatives from CMU. On his left,
Fire up.
On his left were representatives from UCLA. Okay? And so
I thought you were going to go Western, to be honest with you. My bad.
No.
I keep interrupting. My apologies.
No, you're good. But UCLA and CMU. And they make this announcement immediately. CMU representatives are like, oh, shit. Oh, shit. Oh, really? You're like, oh, man, we're done. We're cooked.
Yeah.
It's over. Like, we're the sustained success, kiss it goodbye. It's not going to happen. Because every single year you're going to have to get a new team. Every single year. You can't compete with big budgets. You can't compete with schools that have donor bases and financial backing. And then on the UCLA side, what do? They're jumping up and down. They're hugging. Yes. This is
Yeah, that's what I was there for.
Yeah. Popping champagne. This is great. Yes, we have the money. We can do it, guys. Maybe we can go win a championship now. That alone should tell you, good or bad, however you want to view it. It depends on who you ask. But that's what NIL has done to college athletics. That's it.
And
that's it right there.
And I will say, I mean, obviously, I was never part of any financial decisions at Central Michigan or anything like that. I'm not that too in tune with the university. But you're right, Nate. So every year when I was my 3 years of broadcasting their athletics there, every single year I had to, when I was looking at, because I did basketball and I did baseball, softball, and other different sports. But when it came to basketball, men's basketball, I couldn't go back to, I remember when they made this player made this play last year and how he improved. No, because they're all gone. There was, I think, in the 3 years that I broadcasted, I think they had, on an average, they had 3 returners. I think on average, But you're right. Like Central Michigan, looking at the basketball program, they had under Tony Barbie, and that's also the way that he coached and the way he interacted with the players. That's another different story for a different day. I think Coach Bronco was doing a little bit of a better job in terms of with the relationships with the players and eventually how things get going. But I will say this. Every single year, I remember just scrolling through Twitter, and I'm like, oh, he hit the portal. Yep, he hit the portal. Oh, and he hit the portal. Oh, our 6-man hit the portal. Oh, our starting center hit the portal. That's what it's like. And now that I'm watching Central Michigan football go through it, it's even worse now. Mechjack in the YouTube chat says, is Minnesota stable, though? Honestly, I would say the football team has to be a little bit because I feel like they're always in a bowl game. I know they lost their best safety, Perch, to the portal. But basketball, they've never really been good, so I don't know about basketball. I would say Minnesota seems stable. Seems.
They got Michigan's kicker.
Yeah. Congrats.
From Sunderland.
Yeah. I guess. Okay. You want to take a break real quick because there's a good soccer question possibly in the chat. I know we got to get to the NFL, but you want to take a break real quick? Where I know we're well over.
Yeah, no problem. Let's step aside here on episode 205, Inside the Game.
Sorry, I didn't have the commercial pulled up.
Experience the thrill of the game like never before with NSN's Game Rewind.
Dive into full match commentaries enhanced with cutting-edge dynamic graphics,
Letting you relive the highs and lows of your favorite matches in astonishing detail.
whether it's a championship win or a legendary play.
NSN Game Rewind bridges the past and future with a broadcast experience designed to captivate.
Call 586-304-4405
And start watching today.
Back live on Inside the Game, episode 205. Nate Wangler, Ryan Glinsky, talking a little bit with our fans on the live stream a little bit before we went to break. Again, we appreciate all you guys. Make sure you give us a follow. Said you got a good soccer question in the chat. What do we got?
So again, Fabian in the TikTok chat, MechJack in the YouTube chat. So I'm trying to balance both here. Fabian mentioned, and again, we've talked about this before. And he goes, what's your opinion on soccer as to why the young players don't get the following as South American and European kids? Land-wise, USA is bigger than Europe. I think it's simply because there is an American bias at the moment in terms of soccer. And if you kind of look, I've used this example before. Tony Kukoc coming over and him saying as he came over from Croatia, I think he's Croatian, over to the U.S. in terms of playing in the NBA, he goes, there's always this bias that I wasn't good enough because I'm European. What's a European doing over here playing in the American basketball game? And now we look at it and look at Jokic. We got R.J. Barrett, who's Canadian. We got Wemby from France. So now if you look at the USA part, look at Pulisic, for instance. Pulisic is a damn good player. I think he's a top 15 winger in the world. I think he's more in that 12, 11 range. I don't think he's top 10 yet, but he's in that range, which is super impressive for anyone, really, or for any nation to have that luxury of having a player like Pulisic. But the thing is he's considered not a top 15 winger by the rest of the world. And in the magazine or whatever, he wasn't even considered a top 100 player. So I think it 100% has to be with the U.S. hasn't gotten there in terms of the world stage in that, and that there is a bias towards American soccer players. I think it's starting to change a little bit, but we still haven't cracked that yet, and there is still a bias over the South American and the European players because look what they've done over decades and decades of time. If we look at the U.S., it's just kind of been a couple of years.
And I'll say this, we can even expand that out further, right? There's a bias against America. And we don't even have to just talk about soccer, right? Like, and some of it's justified. I'm not going to say you're wrong. I'm not going to say everybody's wrong, but they, anywhere you go outside of here, they think we're fat. They think we're lazy. They think we're all these other things. And the insecurity itself, there's a level of respect when it comes to the other sports. Baseball was born here. It started during the Civil War. Okay. Obviously, it came over from England. It was called Rounders, right? And then we changed the
England
rules.
Any love. We're not giving England
I'm
any
just saying. All right. All right. But
Can't argue
baseball itself was born here,
yes.
right? Like football itself was born here. Hockey was born in Canada, but North America, right? Those are our neighbors to the north.
And we have the best.
There's
league.
a lot of respect, right? There's a lot of respect when it comes to those sports. Soccer has been around for longer in the United States than American football has. And it is important to recognize this. American football was born from soccer. Okay? Like that is something really important to notice. This game that we talk about on soccer has been around for longer than American football has in the United States. But we created our own thing, and then obviously that took off. And because the rest of the world realizes that when it comes to sports, unless you want to talk about rugby or tennis or golf, the only major team sport that the world has a stranglehold over the U.S. in, outside of
cricket,
again, rugby, cricket, there you go. Tennis probably, well, maybe is soccer on the men's side. And when you have an opportunity to keep the United States in a low place, you keep them there. And that's something that I think a lot of countries take pride in. I'm real enough to admit, if I wasn't from America, I would want to beat America too in everything. I don't want to see America succeed. I don't want to see America take over the sport. I don't want to see America grow in the game of soccer. I don't want to see any of that. You know, it's like the same thing as like a player that everybody hates, but is really good.
Christian
Man,
Laettner.
I love, or like take like a Dennis Rodman. You know, I realize that's an old example, but like if Dennis Rodman's on your team, my God, great.
LeBron.
I love him. LeBron, another good example. I mean, list
Shea's
any
getting
of them.
there.
Yeah.
Shea Gilgeous
If he's on my team, love him. If you're from the U.S., love the U.S. Want to see him succeed. But if you're not, anybody else outside of that group, hate him. Absolutely hate him. Despise him. And it's okay. Again, it's okay because there are perfectly legitimate reasons to not like the United States. I will give everybody that. But that is why, in my personal opinion. And the only thing that bothers me, Ryan, it's not that it exists. It's that they deny it.
Yeah.
That's what bothers the hell out of me. Because you see this, and I forget what it was on, but or who it was, who the American soccer player was. I think it was maybe like Clint Dempsey who said it. I forget. But it was on a panel of other soccer players who were from different parts of the world. And all of them said, no, there's no bias. It's all about what you do on the field. It's all about what you do on the field. You could be from wherever. It's all about how you produce. That's a lie. I'm telling you right now, that is a bold-faced lie. All of them are forced to start from ground zero every year. Every time there's a new season, they got to prove themselves again.
Look at Weston
You got to
right now.
prove that. Yeah.
Year in, year out for Juventus. Plays really well. One of their best midfielders. And he said it himself that every single summer he always sees stuff in the newspapers, the rumors, social media. I shouldn't say newspapers because it's all social media. He goes, is Wes McKennie going to be on the team? Is Wes McKennie sold? And he's like, dude, I just had a phenomenal season. And now he doesn't.
Right.
Now he's not getting his contract renewed.
Right.
And I hope that in Serie A specifically, someone picks him up and he just dominates again and beats Juventus. But no, there's 100% a bias. 100% is.
So it's not that it exists. It exists. It's the fact that no one's willing to admit it.
Yeah.
They're not willing to admit that they're insecure. They're not willing to admit that they're a little scared, like, the U.S. is starting to knock on the door a little bit. Christian Pulisic, Weston McKennie, Chris Richards. I mean, the slew of guys that we're sending overseas. I mean, it was only 3 decades ago that we literally sent one, and it was like, whoa, we got a guy going over to Europe. Like, what? Major League Soccer? What?
I know.
Man, my voice is bad today.
Yeah.
But anyways, that it wasn't that long ago that was a case. Now, look at our starters on the U.S. men's national team. Outside of Christian Roldan, I think all of them play in Europe, right? Maybe there might be 3 or 4 of them that play in the MLS.
Matt Freese, I think, still plays here.
Matt Freese,
But again, that's a
MLS.
goalie.
Our
So,
goalkeepers are MLS, right?
I mean, Luna obviously is still here.
But he's not a starter. I don't think he would be a starter, right?
Starter. I think Tim
Yeah.
Ream technically starts, and he's over here, but he was in Europe for a long time, so he's old now.
Right.
But no, I think you're, you'd be right. Unless Arson sometimes starts. He's Columbus Crew, but no, you're right.
Sometimes, yeah, true. Yeah.
And that's a good thing.
Yeah, and I'm not saying. And the thing is like I'm not saying we have superstars. I'm not saying it's not. We don't have, a Cristiano Ronaldo coming out of the United States. But what we do have is, it's kind of like I've said, and this is the comparison I make all the time. It's really like in Australia in the NBA, or Spain, or any one of those countries. Like, you are producing a high-end talent, and it's starting to become uncomfortable. And even look at the NBA. There's a lot of people that have tuned that league out because, guess what? Europeans are taking over. They're dominating. Even SGA, a Canadian, is winning MVP.
I don't like Shea, though. I'll tell you that.
I don't like SGA either, but I mean that's another point. I think that's just
that's
he
why we
loves
like
getting his
Kate
free throws,
Cunningham.
man.
He's American.
Yeah. But but either way, man, my issue again is not that the bias exists. I know, trust me, I get it. I get it that you don't want to see the U.S. succeed in it, but it's just be willing to admit it. Okay, the first step to solving a problem is admitting you have the problem. It's also the same thing with Canada and the U.S. in hockey. It's the same exact thing. They don't like it. They don't like that our U20s and our U21s and our U-whatevers are beating them. They don't like the fact that their U20s and their U21s suck now and they're losing to the Czech Republic. They don't like the fact that we're catching up to them. They don't like that at all. But it's the reality of where we are right now in the sports scene. And it's the same thing with soccer.
Yeah.
And he said, you talked about landmass. Yeah, I mean, participation-wise, I think it's the most played sport in the U.S. is soccer.
Is it?
Now, mind you, a lot of it is like young kids. So like that's the biggest thing is like, how do we keep kids in soccer? Because that was me, right? I was a part of like the little tykes, like running around on a field. I wasn't going to play the game for the rest of my life. Obviously, my dad came from a football background. I wanted to play football as well, American football, basketball, baseball, all those other things. My dad was an OG. He wasn't a soccer guy, at least in the United States here. But I think it's the most played sport in the United States.
Soccer, basketball, and baseball/softball are consistently ranked as the most. And you would be right. Soccer is the most played sport in the U.S. And obviously, I think there's a couple things that need to be mentioned is, especially with football now, a lot of people are backing away from football until a later age. Maybe like once they get to middle school, just because of the whole concussions and all that stuff. And that's completely a good reason why you wouldn't have your son play football. It is because of that. But I think you're right, though. You also got to think the AYSOs, the little kickers, like stuff like that. So I don't know if that's counted in this at all, but that's definitely, that kind of fluctuates the numbers a little bit.
Yeah, it makes an absolute difference. It makes a huge difference. So anyways, I hope that answers your question. I mean, that's from my perspective, that's just how it goes, and it's okay, but we're progressing in the right direction. But anyways,
I think we are. And then what was it? Mekchek in the YouTube chat, he was talking about who cares about basketball? And I said b-ball #2 sport in the U.S. He goes, well, who cares about football too? Really? I said the South. And I said, it's a cult down there. He says, but that's what he's asking about. Who really cares about all these sports? I would say if I'm looking at college football specifically, I would say the South 100%. And that's like church to them is South. The southern states doesn't even have to be the SEC. I think the Big 12. Some of those
deep,
ones.
rich history in the North too. I mean, Michigan was one of the first football programs ever. So
I was about to say Michigan, Notre Dame.
Yep.
I think
Pennsylvania, it's huge.
Exactly. I really think any of the Power 4 schools, but in particular the southern ones and the really north ones. I would say I don't know about the West Coast really, because if you look at like USC and UCLA, there's not a ton of people. Like when they're good, yeah.
Well, California's top 3 in terms of producing college football talent.
Exactly,
so.
but if we're talking about the colleges specifically, if I turn on a Cal Berkeley or USC or UCLA, it doesn't
That's
feel
true.
like they care as much. It
They don't
feels
have that,
more like oh, football's just kind of on. Let's just go to the game, or oh, but USC's really good. All the celebrities are just going to show up just because the USC's good. Like, you kind of get what I'm getting at there. I don't know about the West, and I will say, I guess if we talk about the West, the Dakotas really care. Like the North Dakotas, the South Dakotas, the Montanas of the world care a ton about the Montana. I just learned about that rivalry. So there's definitely areas that really care about college football. College basketball, on the other hand, UConn cares a ton. Michigan, if they're good, Michigan State, Duke, Carolina. So there's a lot. There's a lot of places that care a ton. I think about their sports, about college.
James Naismith. James Naismith is a Canadian, but he created the game in the U.S. Right, so like. It's that, and this is when we go back on history. This is why it matters, right? The reason why it means more in Europe is because it's been there for how many years? I mean, like they have a deep, rich history of football over there, and it's like, you even go to what little podunk town in England. They have a football pitch. They have thousands of people that come out to their matches. I mean, it's kind of similar, I would say, to like the minor league experience here in the U.S.
Yeah.
Who cares about the Traverse City Pit Spitters playing baseball? Who cares? But the Traverse City people love it because it's their little community, and it's baseball, and it's summer, and it's the U.S., and it's apple pie, and it's Chevrolet, and it's the air show, and it's planes flying over, and it's eagle screeches, and it's hot dogs, and it's that's what it is.
I will say
we grew up on this.
Air shows are awesome. So
great.
So I know you've been over to
unless they catch you by surprise, then it's kind of scary. But
yes, that is true. I know you've made your way to the east side, Shelby Township here in our studios here. I don't know if you've gone it's probably 5 miles more east, but there's an Air National Guard base, Selfridge, and every 2 years they have an air show, and I love it. They always bring in the Blue Angels or who's the other one? The other one, Thunderbird, because there's specific names for certain groups of jets or whatever. But I think it's awesome. I really think it's great, especially with the Blue Angels. But so the thing is when they have their final run of all the jets or whatever, Selfridge is right on a Lake St. Clair there, and the jets before their final run they disappear. And they disappear over the water, and then they come right behind you, and it's awesome. Yep. I love it.
Well, you saw the video of the Cubs dugout, right, when the F-16s flew over.
Yeah.
During the summer.
Yeah.
I mean, that's it right there, man. So
just like a B-2 bomber flying over the Rose Bowl, and Pat McAfee just losing it. It's America, man. It's America.
Right. So that's how we were raised. Mac Jack, I mean, that's my answer to that. You were raised in it, you were around it all the time, so you love it. Also, to answer your question of who cares, I think England cares. I think Brazil cares. I mean, why do you think we sell out stadiums every time we go over there? I mean, every time we have a game there, we sell out at Mexico City, and it's funny. You look up in the crowd, and it's you see a Dolphins jersey, and then you see a Lions jersey. And you see, because they're just that I don't know what their tie is to whatever team they choose, but it's the same thing with us in the Premier League. If I were to say I'm an Everton fan, I've never been to the stadium. I don't know anyone from there. I've never been to the Emirates. No hand in the organization. Exactly. But it's I wasn't raised on it. Maybe I just like the sport, but that's why. That's why people care. Let's take one more break before we come back. Let's wrap this thing up. We got a few more things we want to get to, as well as, I believe, question of the day. But all that more coming up next. Coming up next on Inside the Game.
Are you ready to create unforgettable moments for your audience? NSN offers professional live streaming and full broadcast services tailored to your needs.
From high-quality production to exceptional coverage,
we ensure your game or event becomes a spectacle to remember. Book your next game with us today.
Call 586-304-4405 to schedule your broadcast.
And let NSN bring the action to life like never before.
sprint towards the end. Woo. Welcome back inside the game. Nate Wangler, Ryan Glitzky.
Can I say something real quick?
You gotta,
Breaking news.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Bukayo Saka, new 5-year contract extension. Let's go. One of our own till 2031. We'll take that. I know we're not an Arsenal-based show, but we'll take that. Sorry.
One of us.
Sorry, I've interrupted you a lot today.
Good.
My bad.
It's all good. It's all good, man. All right. So where do you want to go with the rest? I know we got a few things we want to talk on. Obviously, we got question of the day, but we got a few different directions to go. So you're Mr. Producer, man. Where do you want to go?
So I would like to go the football route, the American of football route.
All right.
So we kind of talked a little bit about the Lions, fixing the Lions, and one of them was about David Montgomery. Should he be on the team or not? In addressing the defensive line as well as the offensive line. So we got some sound here from Brad Holmes' postseason press conference regarding David Montgomery. So take a listen.
Perspective, do you expect David Montgomery to be here next year?
Yeah, look, obviously I know that it was a tough year for him in terms of the lack of touches. And I'm not going to say that we went into it planning for it to be that way. I thought he handled it like a pro. And so, look, those are discussions that we're going to have a lot more in depth in terms of, what is the best plan for him going forward? Is it somewhere else or whatever the case be? But just really appreciate everything that he has done for us. If it does end up going that way, I hope it doesn't, because we love.
Sounds like he's gone.
There's a way of saying yes without saying yes, and I think that was a prime example of that. And I mean, how do you feel about what he said?
I would say so. Here's my only thought, and I said this on Tuesday. Of if you don't have an offensive line, if you don't feel like, if I'm Brad Holmes, if I'm Dan Campbell, if I don't feel like I have an offensive line that's really good, if I don't feel confident in it, there is no point of having David Montgomery, because
we're having a dual running back system at all.
Exactly. Like, the Lions could not run in between the tackles this past year. They couldn't. And what does David Montgomery do well? He's the bruiser back. He runs between the tackles really well. The difference between him and Jahmyr Gibbs is Gibbs is able to be a receiving back. He's able to get the ball out in space, and he makes the first guy miss. And I think they realized that, we can't get David touches because we can't block anybody. So Jahmyr Gibbs, he's able to make a couple of guys miss, any of that fun stuff. But no, it just feels like David is going to be on. And I like David Montgomery. I think he seems like a really good person. He seems like a really good football. He's a really good football player. Let's be real. But Montgomery needs a couple things. He's almost handicapped in a way of he needs a couple things to really get things going.
Yeah, and I could tell just from the tone of that conversation yesterday, he's pissed, man. He's pissed. He's pissed about the defense. He's pissed about the state of this team, and rightfully so. I think we wanted to see him match our energy, and I think you and I talked a lot about that. We wanted to see that, and we saw that. And so you can't – the reason why it worked, right, Sonic and Knuckles, which I love that.
Yeah, I think it's great.
Is because they had the O-line. It's because they had the O-line. I still think Montgomery is an explosive running back. I still think he's someone who you can get some really good, valuable stuff out of, but it just doesn't work in the system we're in right now. And that's not the priority. And I know that there was a lot more that he said in that conversation yesterday, but the priority is building the offensive line. The priority is the secondary. I think it's interesting, too. Detroit sports media is weird, man. Like, why are we obsessed with our scapegoats? Why are we obsessed with our scapegoats? We always have to find one person and put it on their shoulders.
I think it's
why is Aiden Hutch? Why? Maybe. You're right. No, probably, definitely New York. New York.
So
why no one wants to go play there?
Who would be the scapegoat for the Tigers then? Because it feels like it's a lot of Chris Ilitch and Scott Harris nowadays.
Yeah. Or if you bring back Tarek Skubal and he has a blowout, he'll be the scapegoat. I mean, that's like, and I don't think people realize that about pitching. I mean, I know this is a football conversation right now, but I don't think any pitcher in the history of ever who's gotten a $400 million contract for as many years as they're talking about, especially with him being damn near 30 years old. I mean, have they really lived up to the hype of that contract? Like, this is the thing. Skubal has not had a major injury. He is a pitcher.
He did, but it was before.
It is going to happen.
It was
right. It was before he was big time. Yeah. Yep. But, anyways, getting back to the Lions. We love, like, Detroit media loves their scapegoats. I can't speak on everybody else. I realize it's probably a lot of fan bases. I can't speak on everybody else right now. But they love their scapegoats. And right now, I think Aiden Hutchinson is the scapegoat for a lot of people. We need another edge rusher. We need someone else to go out there and be able to mix it up. Yeah, I mean, a lot of pressures, and I think he was effective.
Goff's there too.
But why are we talking about that? Like, what I loved about Brad Holmes' press conference yesterday, and I know I've given him a hard time about being smartest man in the room, he addressed the problems. The defense is a problem. An aging, injury-riddled secondary is a problem. A bad offensive line is a problem. We can't run a dual running back system if we're running behind third stringers, right? So he addressed all the things that I thought needed to be addressed. And I think that was the best part about that conversation is I could actually tell that he knew, and he obviously he addressed the edge rusher concern. And I still think it's something that we need. But just because Aiden Hutchinson isn't putting up Myles Garrett numbers doesn't mean he's the scapegoat. And the fact that any Detroit fan would ever look at Jared Goff and be like, oh, yeah, he's the reason why we're not winning. Are you high? Probably. Whatever you're smoking, I want it.
It's
Whatever
legal.
You're smoking, I want it. It is legal. Yeah, right. But you can dabble in it, but, who knows. But that's where I come. But I do think he addressed a lot of the main concerns.
Yeah, I thought Brad. I said this yesterday of Brad. This is the way I said it. I want Brad to come to the podium and pull a Phil from The Hangover and go, look, we effed up. We effed up bad. We weren't good.
Right.
It wasn't. We were good. And I thought he addressed everything that he said. Nothing was up to the standards. The offensive line wasn't this. In the defensive line, he talked about it, and it basically just beat it around the bush of how good AQM was, and we don't need what franchise luxury is it to have a player have a sack of 12 and a half, 14 and a half. We're not. The thing is about that question is, and I'll get back to where I'm mainly going with it, but we're not asking. The Lions fan base is not asking for another 12 and a half, 14 and a half sack guy. They aren't. What they're asking for is a player on the likes of a Jalen Phillips, a player on the like of a Rashawn Gary, where we know that if Hutch isn't getting home, someone else is in the vicinity that could get home, affect the run, put pressure, because they weren't getting pressure in the last 6 weeks of the season. They weren't. Like, that front seven was horrible. And I love Jack Campbell. I love Hutchinson. Aleem McNeil, don't know where he was. Roy Lopez, I thought he was our best D tackle of the year, and he was getting paid nothing compared to what McNeil was. But no, we're not asking to get another Aiden Hutchinson. We're not asking for that. We're just asking for another guy which you can pair with Aiden, and he can make a little bit of noise. And when Aiden's having an off game where he's not getting home, he's getting double teams, we know someone else can beat a one-on-one, get to the quarterback. But back to what Brad said, I like what he said. He owned up to just about everything. And now he talked it. Now can he walk it? That's now the next thing of if what he can do. But I firmly believe this Detroit Lions franchise, this is the most important offseason in franchise history. It's the most important. You have to get a new offense coordinator, and if it's Mike McDaniel, I love that. I love that. It's like two opposite personalities with Dan Campbell, Mike McDaniel, but you are getting a head coach. Whether he's good or not is up for you to decide. But you're getting another head coach on your sideline, an experienced play caller, and I like that. And the Lions have the tools. They just need an offensive line. Now you got to retool the lines. I think Decker retires, I think he does. That clears up cap space to go sign in free agency. Defense, you got to do something with the secondary. I'm not a fan of it, but then the draft and free agency. This is the most important offseason in franchise history. 100%.
Yeah. Yeah. And mostly because I think people look at this Lions team, and I think a lot of people are saying they missed their window. And I feel so justified and vindicated, mostly because, and I realize I wasn't on air saying this, and I wish I had some sort of documentation of me saying this because I only said it to the people that were around me. I said it before the season. I'm like, I think we missed our window. I think the missed catch in San Francisco in the terrible second half was the end of our window. And people are like, no, there's no way. Well, I realize the injuries played a role. They played a role last year. They played a role this year. But when Dan Campbell addressed the team afterwards and he says, guys, this might be the last time we get back here, he wasn't kidding. Like, that's the reality of where we're at. And so maybe you missed that window. But if you don't capitalize on this offseason, it's not that hard to slip back into irrelevancy. Look at the Giants, right? Look at the Giants. Look at the Cowboys.
I think there's too much talent to go to the Giants. I think you would more slip into the realm of mediocrity because there's too much talent on that football team.
Probably more the Steelers. How about the Steelers?
Yeah, the
Is
Steelers.
that fair?
Yeah, I think that you would slip
That's
into
probably
that more
fair.
than the Giants. There's too much talent.
Right.
Too much talent.
But there is no league, in my opinion, Ryan Glinsky, where it is easier to slip into irrelevancy quicker than in the National Football League.
Yeah.
Because how many times have we seen a team win a Super Bowl, turn around and just not, or make the playoffs, turn around and not make the playoffs the following year? I think the rate of that happening is higher than any other league. Yeah.
But
so
at the same time, you can also jump into relevancy just as quickly.
Yeah, that's true.
And I think the Lions, if there was a phase plan, I think you're going to be entering another phase of, all right, we have to make decisions on our own guys because for some reason the Lions love their own guys. They love their own, and I guess there's at some point, but you also you've got to enter a new phase now of how do we retool this thing? Let's keep our core intact. Like, look, I think there's 4 pillars to this football team. I think there's 4 main pillars, and I think once you keep all 4, or once you establish who all 4 are, I think you got a much better chance of, progressing as the years go on. I think the 4 pillars are Penei Sewell, Amon-Ra, Aiden Hutchinson, and Jared Goff. And you have all 4 locked up for a long time. And once you have those 4 established, now how do we get everyone else involved? How do we fill in the gaps? How do we fill in the blind spots? And that's what they need to start doing now. I think you still have a stud with Jack Campbell at linebacker. You still have Brian Branch and Kirby. Whether they're healthy, that's to be seen. But you still have some studs on that football team. But now you need to fill in the holes a bit. You still have J-Mo and Laporta. You still got to fill in those voids now with that. But I don't think they'd slip into irrelevancy yet, but they could 100% slip into mediocrity.
So I wanna give a quick shout out. By the way, I know this doesn't have anything to do particular with what we're talking about right now.
By the way, we do have NFL picks. By the way,
NFL picks. All right, let's get into that. Here in a second. Wanted a quick shout out. Patrick Kane, goal number 500 in his career last night for the Red Wings. Still in first place. I don't know how legit the Red Wings are. I really don't. I mean, I would like to admit that they're good, but they could also go on an eight game slide, and all of a sudden we're having a different conversation a couple weeks from now. So I don't know what that team is at the moment, but congrats to Patrick Kane. It was awesome to see him come back for another year. I didn't think we would get Kaner back for another year. I really didn't. But the fact that he came back is huge. Wearing my USA hockey stuff right now. So congrats to Patrick Kane. Also, the Pistons still in first place. So both Detroit sports teams, hockey and basketball, in first place in the East. So that's really cool.
They seem more legit than the Red Wings.
Yeah. Pistons too. Yep.
Yeah,
but anyways,
I would say they were trying so hard to get that puck on that empty netter to Patrick Kane. They were trying so hard, but it's just crazy to think that the Red Wings, like we talked about being irrelevant for such a long time, and and they were irrelevant for a long time. And it was the past couple years they've kind of gotten into the mix of making the playoffs. Like 2 years ago, the final game of the season, and oh my gosh, that was so awesome that they win the faceoffs. They're down by 1, a goal with like 0.5 seconds to go to keep their playoff hopes alive. But then all of a sudden, they're out anyway because the other team won, whoever that was. I forget who. But now they're in the mix. But now you're starting to see them in the playoff conversation. Look, there's still a couple. There's only a few points separating them and a couple other teams in their own Atlantic division. So they're in a tough division. Whether they're legit or not, it's still to be seen. They still have played 45 games. A couple of these teams below them, 42, 43 games played. So, again, there's a little bit of difference. But, again, I like the new look Red Wings. And I think that we're starting to turn the page of getting into the playoffs and everything. But would you like to do some NFL picks?
Let's do it.
NFL picks. Of course, we won't be doing spreads. We'll just be doing straight head-to-head, who we think's going to win the game. Oh, also, mind you,
I can kick it off if you want.
Huh?
I'll kick it off with the matchups if we want to go that way.
No, I just want to put it out there. For all these games that are happening this weekend, there's 6. You need technically 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different subscriptions to watch these. Fox, I guess Fox, if you have like a cable, again, cable a little bit different, but Fox has 2 games. That's where the Rams and Panthers, Niners, Eagles, and then you got Prime Video for the Bears, Packers. Then you got Paramount Plus for the Bills, Jags, and you got Peacock for the Chargers, Pats, and then you got that's an old one. So Steelers, Texans on ESPN and ABC. So yeah, you have to go to a ton of different places to watch these games.
Yeah. Yep.
I just had to put it
annoying.
out there for the people.
Yeah, it's annoying. But anyways, let's get it kicked off. Rams and Panthers. Where you at, Ryan?
Oh, this is on Fox, by the way, people. This is probably the easiest one of the week. Also, we should keep track of this before we come back on Monday. I'll keep track. Rams 100%. I think that's like the easiest selection I could have made for the week.
Packers, Bears. What say you?
I think this will be the best game of the weekend. I really do. The fact that it's on Prime Video is a disgrace to this at all. I feel like this is a spot because the Packers it's going to come down to the wire. It's going to come down to the wire. I think that it'll be I think the Bears still do it. I still think the Bears find a way. If Micah's playing, I think a different story, but I think the Bears still they just seem like a team that would win at least one playoff game.
I'm going to go with the Pack. I think the Bears choke it in the first round. I don't have any sort of reason as to why I think that. I know we went down our matchups the other day and we were going one by one. I'm going to go with the Pack in that first round matchup.
It's going to be a really good game, and it's going to come down to the last.
I think Jordan Love's going to get into his bag, man, and I think he's gonna lead that team to victory. So we'll see. Bills, Jags.
This is an interesting one too. Again, Paramount Plus, by the way, the subscription. Just putting it out there for the people where to watch these games. Jags, Bills. I still feel like though that the Bills have never won a playoff game on the road with Sean McDermott. But I think that ends. I think that ends this time. I just don't think the Jaguars and Duval gets it done. I still think they're in a weak division, and I think Josh Allen gets it done. It's going to be in warm weather compared to when they normally play in cold weather. So I'm gonna say the Bills win it. They're going to win by, I don't even know what the spread is, but I'm going to say they win by a touchdown.
I'm going to go with Bills as well. Yeah, I think that's probably a safe bet. I think they won a close one, but I think Josh Allen being out there, I mean, he has a reputation in the playoffs. A good thing for him. He doesn't have to get back past Kansas City this year. So he doesn't have to get over the Chiefs hump because the Chiefs are out. So that's good news for Josh Allen and company. 49ers, Eagles.
I think it's the Eagles. I think they're just going to run the football down the Niners' throat. Again, Fox, by the way, so no subscription really unless you have if you have cable. I think they'll run away with it. I think they win by a couple scores. The Niners can't stop the run, and yeah, I'm gonna go with the Eagles. I think they win comfortably.
All right, let's go with. Oh, by the way, I pick Eagles here too, so I'm right there with you. Chargers, Patriots.
This one's interesting because the Chargers have no offensive line. They can't block, but their defense is pretty good, and just went to be a head coach at some point. The Patriots, though, on the other hand, I can't. Again, Peacock, need a subscription. Drake May, again, I feel like there's just a lot of young talent that hasn't experienced the playoffs yet. Do I think Drake May's a fraud? No. And I think Justin Herbert, I think the Chargers are a really good team. It's going to be a defensive slugfest, but I think Drake May and the Pats just edge it out. I just don't think the Chargers can run the football effectively, and I don't think they can protect Justin Herbert and score enough points.
Yeah, I mean, that's the biggest thing. Justin Herbert can't keep taking a beating the way he has all year. I mean, they've suffered so many injuries, specifically at tackle, which outside of no, I think offensive tackle is probably the most important position on the field. Again, this is me personally. I'm going to go with offensive tackle as the most important position on the field. They don't have consistent tackle play. I'm going to go with the Pats in this game against the Chargers. All right, Texans, Steelers.
Again, I think another defensive slugfest. I'm going to go with the Texans, but again, their offense struggles a little bit. Steelers' defense, I think, is really good. But offensively, I think both offenses struggle. We know the Steelers are going to struggle. The Texans' defense is really good. They're one of the best in terms of scoring. I think they are the number one defense in scoring. I'm going to rock with the Texans.
Maybe I'm just trying to be devil's advocate here, but I mean, I feel like playoff Aaron Rodgers, I wouldn't bet against the guy, so I'm going to go with Steelers in this one. Looking at every panel across the way, everybody anybody has picked the Texans to go out and win this game, which understandably so. But that is, I believe that, you get Aaron Rodgers in the playoffs, you never know. You never know what might happen. So I think they still have a chance. As long as he's out on the field, I think they have a pretty good chance to go out and win that game. But yeah, that's a look at our picks there for round one, at least the wild card picks here for the NFL playoffs. And again, it's going to be a little different this year, Ryan, not having the Lions in it. We're just going to be joy watching and seeing what happens. And
no stress,
it seems like no stress. That's the biggest thing. No stress. But let's get to question of the day.
Question of the day, of course, Salt Athletic, an official sponsor of us here at the National Soccer Network. Save 15% by using promo code NSN15 on that #1 smell-proof cleat bag that 100% works. Scan that QR code on your screen or visit saltathletic.com today. But question of the day.
Whoa.
A team, if you could bring back a team from the past, it could be any sport, any era, it could be from the 50s for all I care. But what is a team that you would bring back?
Can I move them back to the city they were in previously?
Yeah, I guess. No rules against it.
I'm thinking. I would say Montreal Expos.
Okay.
Just because their colors and that logo and everything else is so vintage. Send the Chargers back to San Diego.
Okay.
Get them out of Vegas.
I was kind of going
get them out of LA.
Yeah, they have no fan base.
LA doesn't need
I was going more the route of
ridiculous.
I guess one specific team of a year, like the Lions from 2024 or whatever.
Oh,
that's what I was kind of going more. Not
I thought you meant like an organization.
Yeah, I guess I should have cleared that up a little bit. A team that you could bring back.
All right. Team that we could bring back. When was man?
I got mine. I go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I'm either bringing back the 2001 Miami squad. I just think the fact that you have a Hall of Famers as third stringers and backups is just really impressive to me. And
you're really on a Miami kick right now, aren't you?
Yeah. I've always wanted to see the U be really good, just based on the fact of how much talent they had. And the documentaries also helped a lot, too, the 30 for 30s. But I would also say I would like to see the 03-04 Arsenal Invincible squad that didn't lose a game all year. Just thinking of all the greats on that team as well: Jens Lehmann, Thierry Henry, Robert Perez, Dennis Bergkamp, Patrick Vieira, and all those rivals. And also to see, God, that would probably take 3 years off of my life. But the fact that early in the season, that they fouled Van Nistelrooy in the box, and Man United had a PK, a team that Arsenal was trying to overtake once again, and that early in the season, and then to see Van Nistelrooy miss the PK, and a young Ronaldo was on the field, to miss the PK, hit it off the bar, misses, they clear it, and then the Arsenal players are just in Van Nistelrooy's face, hitting him. A fight breaks out during the game. The ref calls it because he can't go any longer. That would have taken years off my life, but man, I would have loved to experience that.
So, as in, like, I get to experience this year all over again? I get to experience this team all over again?
Yeah, you get to watch it. Yeah. Like something
Okay.
that you did not watch. Or I guess you could have watched it, I guess. I don't know. Just a team that
Maybe the 2004 Pistons, because I wasn't old enough to really enjoy it. I wasn't really old enough to enjoy it. I watched my dad enjoy it. My dad loved it. And I think even if you weren't an NBA fan, watching that Pistons team beat the Lakers, a series in which they were given zero chance against Kobe and Shaq, zero chance to go out and win a game, let alone go out and sweep them. I would love to see the 04 Pistons. 04 Pistons would be great. My other one is maybe the 2016 Cubs. That's the greatest World Series run of all time. That World Series, Game 7, in my opinion, is the single greatest baseball game in history. I don't think anything compares. That night, baseball stood alone.
Would that series, the Guardians-Cubs, was that better than Toronto-LA this year? Because I thought Toronto-LA was phenomenal series.
It was better, and here's why. Because of the story. Because the then Indians, now Guardians, hadn't won a World Series in 70-plus years. Cubs, obviously we knew, hadn't won a World Series in 107, 108 years. I mean, that's 170-some-odd years of futility.
Were the games better?
No, but the story matters. The Game 7 was. Absolutely.
The whole
and the Cubs coming back from
the Dodgers series, I think, is better. The whole series overall. Because the games were better. You can go the story.
It's the Dodgers, dude. But that adds to it. That's the thing, And the Cubs came back from down 3-1 to win that series. I mean, that's.
But everyone
I don't
hated
know.
the Dodgers.
I personally.
Everyone, I think, was rooting for the Cubs. Everyone hated the Dodgers.
I think even that Game 7, it stood alone, man. Everybody who was anybody was watching that game, even if they didn't care about baseball. They had zero interest in sports, baseball, anything. They were still watching it because of the story that was attached to it. That's just my personal opinion. So I think that was the one night that game really stood alone. So I would go either 2016 Cubs or 2004 Pistons.
Wow, 40 million views for that Game 7. Impressive.
Yeah, wild. You got to take into account, obviously, Chicago's a big city, so they're all in one way or another. And the Cubs fan base is just massive.
Ooh.
So
Dodgers Blue Jays this year got 51 million.
Again, you got to consider TV and streaming and access and all those other things. I don't think anything touches that game. I really don't think anything touches that Game 7. But either way, appreciate you guys jumping into episode 205. Again, we'll be back on Monday. Hopefully my voice will be back to at least somewhere near 100% come that time. Obviously, today's a little bit better than what it was yesterday. But we love all you guys. Thank you so much for joining. Make sure you follow us on social media. We'll be talking about the national championship coming up on Monday. We'll know what we're dealing with. We'll also continue our conversation about the NFL playoffs. And we're going to get rolling back with our soccer talk as well. But until we talk to you guys on Monday, my name's Nate Wangler. That's Ryan Glinsky. You've been watching Inside the Game here on the National Soccer Network.
From the biggest matches to the hottest takes, Jonathan Turner and Nathan Wangler bring you the stories, the analysis, and the edge you won't get anywhere else. Streaming live weekdays at 9 a.m. on YouTube, Roku TV, Facebook, Twitter, and all major platforms. No filters, no fluff, just real talk, real soccer. This is Inside the Game.